Welcome to Automated Mobility, the people behind the wheel. In this podcast series, we get to know the experts working in the field of automated mobility. What drives them, and how do they think their work contributes to a better mobility system? I am your host, Henriette Cornet, and I am the coordinator of SHOW, a European project testing automated vehicles in real life. SHOW is led by UITP, the International Association of Public Transport. Together, with 70 other partners, we investigate a future where mobility is shared, connected, and automated. In this episode, I'm interviewing Pekka Eloranta from Sitowise. Hello, Pekka. Welcome. Nice to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Henriette. It's nice to be here, even though it's raining today.
Yes. But here we are in a cozy area. I hope you're comfortable.
I am. Well.
Great. Let me introduce you to the audience. You are Pekka Eloranta, so I would like you later to say your name with the Finnish accent. I guess it sounds a bit different.
Yeah, but you did it rather well. It's okay. Pekka Eloranta. And you said it properly.
Okay, nice. Great. I had luck.
Yeah, you were lucky.
So you are leading consultant at Sitowise. You will tell us more about what you are doing there. And you are also the coordinator of the Finnish demonstration activities in the SHOW project. And you are leading the satellite site activities. So the audience may not be clear yet what is the difference between this different type of demonstration activity in the project, but we will come back to that later. And let's keep SHOW aside for now. And I would like to first get to know you a bit better, so that the audience get to know you a bit better and know what you are doing at Sitowise. So, the way I like to ask people about their job is, what do you tell your friends and family about your job? How do you explain it?
Well, when I was younger, my daughter was also younger, so she told everybody that my daddy is moving papers. But that's not really my job. I'm involved in research and development activities in Sitowise. So I have been working in this area since 1994, when the first World Congress on Transport Telematics, so you know this kind of intelligent transport systems, so started in Paris ages ago. And then we started the first project to develop new kind of mobility services for citizens. And I was at the time the Finnish activity leader. So I started ages ago, and I'm doing research. So I'm a project manager, coordinator, whatever, and I have good teams to help me to prepare all kinds of new mobility-related services. And in the showcase, as you can say, I'm of course dealing with automated transport services.
Mm-hmm. But you mean that at Sitowise you are not dealing only with automated mobility, or in your career so far, so it was also like other forms of mobility?
Yes. Well, my background is in logistics, so freight.
I see.
And through that I came to the passenger transport, and then we decided that we need to enhance the possibilities for citizens to move. And there are so many areas where conventional public transport, buses or trains or trams or whatever, they are not serving, but they still should be served. And these citizens should be served, and they should have possibilities to travel. In Finland, we have a lot of sparsely populated areas, rural areas, and if you don't have something in addition to the conventional bus transport, for example, so they have no possibilities to participate in society. Mm-hmm. So gradually I started to move towards development of new kind of mobility services for all people, also those who have perhaps disabilities, handicaps, they may be elderly, They may have difficulties in moving or whatever. And for them, it's very important to also offer services, as has been discussed here in Hamburg lately, very much. So mobility and services related to mobility, they are for all, not only for, let's say, the young ones or the ones that are working, but also the gray-haired persons like me. So this is very important, and that's one of my key roles at the moment.
Yeah, and that, I guess it sounds like it's something that motivated you to start investigating this field of automated mobility?
Yes, absolutely, because when we test automated mobility in Finland, so we are doing the tests in an area where you have several kinds of different groups like immigrants, school children, housewives or men living with the children, elderly, disabled, so all kinds of special user groups in the same suburban area. So we have in our pilot area, test area, world in a nutshell, as I always say, all kinds of users. And it's very important to understand that public transport services are targeted and meant to be used by all, not just some few of citizens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's we are very aligned on that, I guess, and it's something that is very important for UITP to think of integrated automated mobility to the public transport system. So it's not something that should be something like a luxury, like just for few people that can afford, like having an automated car on their own, things like that. But really looking at how automated mobility could make life better in city for all, and really with not only addressing, like I think public transport often really focuses on commuters.
Yeah.
There are of course the mass using public transport, but there are all the people around that also need good access to services, as you said.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's a very important point. In the city of Tampere, we just introduced our new tram line or light rail, whatever you might call it. We call it tram, 20-kilometer stretch of services, and it's going to be, and it is already now the backbone of our public transport system, but to reach the hubs, let's say the places where you jump into the tram, so you need also services, and even 2 kilometers or 1 kilometer walk in Finland, it may be challenging because we have winter, we have snow, we have minus 30 degrees sometimes. And we have, as I said, we have special users. So it's very important that we develop integrated services where all the parts of the public transport chain are working seamlessly together. That's one point in Tampere. And one important element is also the climate change. Tampere has strategies that target to carbon neutrality. And when we target to carbon neutrality, so we have to develop services that are not causing pollution or congestion or anything like, these disadvantages. And so when we develop something in the show project, it's not only for the project, it's for the future, and it is for the whole traffic system and climate goals that we have set in the city of Tampere and in Finland. So there is kind of a bigger picture, but we have to remember that the bigger picture should help and support mobility for all citizens.
Yeah, very well put, and also it's good that you put show into context, because that's something I've been discussing this also in Hamburg, since you mentioned it. It's like not doing technology for the sake of technology, but really with a wider purpose. And okay, we apply to get funding from the Commission or local funding agencies, but at the end there is always kind of a goal. So it should fit into a context of a wider picture.
Yes, absolutely, and I love this kind of approach where the European Commission is supporting us to develop something that is also targeted by the areas, cities and regions that are involved in show. And it's very interesting to show that or see that the funding that we do receive from the European Commission it is supporting activities so that we can get also funding from our national sources, and then we can create the whole concept. And this is very important. So the objectives of the Commission and the objectives of, for example, the city of Tampere, they are totally in line. And both sides are then interested in supporting the activities that we are going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have to say it's also a challenge, right? We know that this causes also kind of challenges in the project, having to rely on different source of funding. That makes everything a bit more risky, let's say, and mainly in this time of pandemic, where cities, we have noticed in the project that cities may have, mostly in 2020, had other priorities, let's say. And when we wrote the proposal before in 2019, the priorities were a bit different. But I also like this idea that show is really unique for this setting of being collaborating with local initiative and local ecosystems. So for the audience to know what's unique in the project is really we are dealing, of course, with the usual vehicle manufacturers and operators and so on, but also, as you mentioned, really cities, municipalities, and that's quite unique. I don't think they are in many European projects. I think they are more active locally, and that's great to connect, I would say, connect the dots and compare what is happening in this local ecosystem and to compare with other local ecosystems in Europe.
Yeah. And I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Finland, we also have this kind of a national growth program for transport activities. So when we are developing show, just in a suburb of Hervanta in Tampere, so the city of Tampere is participating in this bigger picture and development processes where we want to create something that is not useful only for the city of Tampere, but it is also useful for the other cities in Finland, and it is supporting these bigger programs like the Sustainable Growth Program or our new Traffic 1-2, this kind of a development framework where we are developing the whole traffic system in Finland. So even though we are talking about piloting on activities with the fleet of some 6 vehicles for 1 year in Hervanta suburb, so we are creating the bigger picture continuously. And the very positive thing in Finland is that the bigger cities in Finland, they are continuously communicating, and they are sharing information, experiences, and setting, let's say, the objectives and goals together, not only isolated, so that one city is doing their own things, but they are also changing ideas. This is a very positive thing in Finland. So I'm very, very confident that when we have show project, let's say when we finalize it, there will be several other cities in Finland and also elsewhere, of course, that will be very interested in let's say, in exploiting the results for their own benefit, because it's the benefit for the society, not only for the cities. So I think show will be a kind of a, let's say, leader, spearhead, whatever project, and will help also other cities. As we have seen, there is a lot of interest towards our activities. So we'll help the other cities to continue the development work based on our experiences. So we will not stop when the project is over. We will continue the process based on the things that we have been doing. So I'm trying to see not only the smaller pilots and cities activities, but the bigger picture. And as you mentioned earlier, the satellite. I'm the leader of satellite pilot sites, and it was a kind of a strange word for me in the beginning. But then I realized that it's a kind of describes very well, because we have mega sites, big ones, bigger areas, and perhaps even combination of several regions. And then we have these smaller sites like the city of Tampere or Turin, Trikala in Greece, or Brno in Czech, Copenhagen in Denmark, and so on, and Eindhoven in the Netherlands. So they are doing the same things, but perhaps they have a smaller, let's say, the environment but they are still doing the same things. And then we can also change ideas and experiences between mega sites and satellite sites, and also within satellite sites.
Okay, but just for the audience to understand properly this satellite site concept, so satellite sites focus on a more specific aspect of the demonstration or of user groups. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the satellite sites they have a little, let's say, a bit more narrow scope. So they are not doing all the possible use cases or different services that the mega sites are doing, but they are concentrating on some of these. But still, when we put together all the results and let's say developments from the satellite sites, they will cover all the possible services and so-called use cases that we have identified. But indeed, satellite sites are a bit smaller and with a bit more limited scope of range of services. And then we have also the follower sites, which are then, we have to remember them. They want to actively follow what we are doing, and they are in the show project, I mean, and then they are trying to find what kind of a assortment of services based on the experiences from show they would like to implement and deploy. So we don't have only mega and satellite sites, we have also followers. And one very important thing that we have is twinning. So we are also changing experiences, ideas, views, lessons learned between Asian and American organizations. And we have to remember that even though European Union is very kind enough to provide us with funding, so we are not doing this only in Europe. We are talking continuously with let's say America, Asia, also Asia Pacific area, because we have connections towards Australia and New Zealand also. So I would say that the show is a kind of a global project in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are making great advertisement about the project. I'm very happy to hear the way you formulate it and the way you present it, because like this international aspects of it is important. We signed already collaboration agreements with China, also with Japan. We are very happy about that, and discussions are ongoing with US. So yeah, as you said, it's even broader than Europe. So I think there will be so many learnings as outcome from the project. That will be something really for the next, not only project as you said before, next initiatives, good, very positive thing and impactful learnings. Coming back just for the satellite site, I still want to get something. So can you tell us specifically for the city of Tampere, what is special there? So what are you investigating there in detail, meaning, and what is different from the other sites in the project?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I should have remembered to say it from the very early stages of this podcast. But indeed, we have some specialities in Tampere. Firstly, the city of Tampere has offered us a possibility to use a private 5G test network. So we can test 5G and automated driving together, so that we can see what kind of benefits this kind of new mobile phone or cellular technology will bring to automated transport. And we know at the moment that we can have very low latency, meaning very, very quick communications and responses, so that we can even control we can control and monitor the vehicles remotely from let's say control tower, control center, whatever you call it. So low latency, very good, reliable, and also communications with high capacity. We can send a lot of messages, even video, from vehicles to the control center. So that's one of the things.
Yeah, and just to stay on that shortly, so for everyone to understand the concept, so the vehicles that we deploy, they will not drive completely autonomously, would say, like completely on their own, taking decision on their own, but they also communicate with the infrastructure, with this center, this tower, control tower. Maybe you can explain this a bit more so that everyone understands. This idea of being driverless and with this connection with the control tower.
Yeah, one thing that we do have in the beginning is, of course, that we have a person, somebody to take care. That everything is working. So we call these guys safety drivers. So they will be there. But at the end of the day, the objective is not to have any physical driver in the vehicles. And based on the Finnish legislation, for example, it is already now possible that there is a remote driver. He or she has to have a driving license. But he is allowed or she is allowed to monitor and control the vehicles remotely.
So not in the vehicles.
Not in the vehicles. And to be able to do that, of course, you have to have very good and reliable and very fast communication possibilities or channels. And that is the 5G cellular network. So this is very important. They have estimated that one, let's say, this kind of a control person, remote driver, could manage up to from 5 to 7 vehicles at the same time. Okay, this means also that the costs to provide services decrease dramatically because you don't have to have a physical driver. On the other hand, it could be also told otherwise. With the same amount of money, we can have much, much more services. So this is one of the objectives of the city, to provide as good services as possible with the reasonable amount of money. But when it comes to Finland and our site, so what is special in Finland is, of course, that we have winter. And in the winter time, you cannot see road markings, lane markings, that kind of things. You may have minus 30 degrees below zero, meaning that it is causing challenges for batteries in the vehicles, accumulators, and we have set very, very many challenges that do not exist in let's say, when you go to USA, California, the sun is always shining. You don't have rain, you don't have anything, no fog, no ice. So of course it's much easier to drive there. But we wanted to check how can we create and provide automated services in winter conditions. That's one of the let's say the specialities in Finland. So one thing which is very important for us is that even though we are going to use in the beginning fixed routes and fixed some kind of schedules every 5 minutes or every 3 minutes or something, but in the future we will target to have this kind of a demand responsive service element where the users of the service they are able to call or use their application to order the automated transport almost to their home door. But you cannot do this if you don't have good, reliable and working communications, and that is also the reason we have 5G. Of course, when you order a trip, so it doesn't have to be as quick as, let's say, reacting to dangerous situations. But anyway, 5G is also making this possible because you can have so much more capacity when you use 5G.
I would like to go back a bit to your own motivation about the topic. And you mentioned a lot of things, like you mentioned this from a very broader level, the collaboration in the project between the different cities, the different countries, and even in Europe and beyond. You mentioned technologies, you mentioned impact on society. So I'm very glad we had already all these thematics covered, because that's what we are exploring in the project. But what is your own motivation for automotive mobility? What's motivates you in it? What's exciting for you, about this topic, very, very personally, so to say? The one thing you say, that's kind of cool.
Well, I could say that one good argument is that my daughter is living in Hervanta suburb, but that's not the case. But personally, I think that we have to remember that the population is aging, and people don't want to drive their cars anymore. And on the other hand, also society wants to get rid of too many personal cars in city centers. And I support the idea because I want to let's say, I want that the future generations also have a possibility to enjoy the world. And if we don't do anything, if we let things go as they have gone for ages now, so we will pollute and we will congest the whole world. So I think, of course, it's a kind of a philosophical issue, but I want to do my share to be able for the future generations also to enjoy not only, let's say, live in an environment which is not comfortable, but to enjoy the sustainable environment and fresh air and sun and so on, and not to be caught in a congested city centers where you cannot even breathe. So this is a kind of a bigger picture, and well, I believe that together we can do it.
Let's hope for the best. Let's hope we will go in the right direction. Do you want to add something? Is there anything we forgot to address?
Well, I think we should have open minds and open eyes, and not to be afraid of testing new kind of services, because they have been and will be developed to help us. And I know already now that most people are not against automated driving, but we should make our best to really to help them to use automated transport, to develop first, of course, develop and then use automated transport, and show them that there are no risks, and it's safe, and it's environmentally friendly, and it's also nice. Let's not be afraid of the future developments. The best ones will stay and will be used, and some of them will not be used. But let's test them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great way to finish this episode. Let's test more. Let's investigate. Let's find out what works, what doesn't, and we will have many learnings for the future project and initiatives. Thank you very much, Pekka, for being with us today, for answering all these questions and giving us your great insights. I think I will ask UITP to hire you, actually, because you are really, I can feel the public transport motivation in you, so that was very nice. And I wish you all the best. Have a good, safe trip back to Finland, and we keep in touch.
Thank you, Henriette. And I wish I could work for UITP, but I'm so old that I have to retire one of these days.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Automating Mobility, the people behind the wheel. This podcast would not have been possible without the support from the Horizon 2020 program by the European Commission under the grant agreement number 875530. Check out the links for the show project and other references in the description of the episode, and subscribe to our newsletter to stay tuned. Don't hesitate to share this episode or give us feedback to it. My name is Henriette Cornet from UITP, and I hope to see you at our next episode.